Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad you could join us again tonight. We're going to make something so nice tonight. I have a pork tenderloin and I'm going to stuff it with some mushrooms and onions and garlic. And then we're going to chow down. I'm going to make a little raspberry sauce to go with it. And about the raspberry sauce, I have to give a shout out to another YouTube channel. Joyce Ho has a channel, You Can Cook Gourmet, and her raspberry sauce was the inspiration for what I'm making tonight, even though I'm making it a little bit different. She's a wicked good cook, so if you're surfing around, you should look for her channel. So I've done some preparation work. I've already got a lot of it done, but I filmed it for you so you can see. So let's get cooking. Okay, we're starting our prep several hours ahead. Many wonderful dishes start out many hours ahead. And I've done this for you before. I have a quart of water in here, and I'm going to make a citrus infusion, citrus and ginger infusion, and I'm going to use it both as a marinade and as an ingredient. So I have an orange, I have almost a whole lemon, and I've chopped up about an inch of ginger root, and I've put just a little bit of fresh garlic in there, little chopped pieces. And I've left the peels on purpose because there are oils and wonderful flavor in the peels. I'm going to bring that to a boil and let it simmer for about an hour, and the water will reduce by about half. And we're going to use that as a marinade for our pork loin, and I'll save out a half a cup to use in the sauce that we're going to make to go with our pork loin. So we'll be back. Okay, you can see that this is reduced quite a bit. I'm going to let it cool and then strain it. And we will have a very nice marinade. Be back. Well, here is the star of our show tonight. This is a pork tenderloin. I cooked a pork loin the other day, and I talked about the difference in tenderloin and loin. This is probably the best cut of pork that you can get, and the price usually reflects it, but sometimes you can find it on sale. We are often lucky enough to get pastured pork, which is usually what I have. But I wanted to show you this. So this is grocery store pork. When you open this, there'll be two in here, but there's juice in there too, so I'll open it on the sink. But generally this comes with 2 pieces of tenderloin in it. And the tenderloin can be cooked just like any other pork, but it's very tender. It can be cooked at a higher temperature, and I'm going to show you that as we cook it tonight. Let me drain this off, and then we'll take the next step. Okay, what I have here is half of what was in that package. And we're going to trim this up a little bit, get a little bit of this membrane off. You won't find a lot of fat on this piece, but you'll find some membrane. And we're going to trim it. And it's a little slippery. A little bit of fat there. You don't have to trim all the fat off, but there's just really not very much there. Okay, so I'm looking for the widest part of this, and I'm going to go down. Hold on. I'm going to trim it just a little bit more. Okay, so that's trimmed enough. I'm going to look for the widest part of this, and I'm going to cut through, being very careful not to cut all the way through. I just want to spread this open, butterfly it. And then we're going to pound it out a little bit. I'm not using the tenderized side. I'm just pounding it. Because this is already very, very tender. Okay, I think that's thin enough. I get a little part there that I cut through. We'll fix that when we stuff it. Okay, in the bowl. And I'm going to use, I ended up with a little less of this marinade than I meant to, but this doesn't take much. And I need to retain half a cup of the sauce we're going to make. And I'm going to sprinkle some salt, about a half a teaspoonful. And I meant to talk about this, and I'll just go ahead and do it now. The purpose of a marinade is both to infuse flavor and to tenderize. The tenderizing is not so necessary with this piece of meat, but you know, it will make it even more tender. The basis of a marinade for tenderizing and flavor is salt and acid. So when I make this infusion for a marinade, I use citrus. You can also marinade with vinegar. But this particular marinade is a citrus marinade. And we're going to put this in the refrigerator and let it sit for no less than an hour. You could do it overnight if you want to prepare this the day before. And then we'll be back. Okay, we're going to start our raspberry sauce. And I'm going to start out with a half cup of the infusion. that I made earlier. This is a citrus infusion, citrus and ginger, and I actually just saw a little piece of ginger. I'll get that out when I strain the raspberries. So I'm going to put this on a medium heat. And this is a very simple sauce. It just takes a couple of steps, but it doesn't have a lot of ingredients. And the first thing that we're going to do, I've got 2 cups of raspberries here that I'm adding to the infusion. Crush them a little bit. And we're just going to heat these up enough so that we can get the juice out of them. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoonsful of brown sugar, in my case brown sugar substitute, because everybody knows I don't eat sugar. And I may end up adding a little more depending on the taste when we're done. A little bit of ginger still in there, but it'll come out when we strain these. So I'm going to let these come up to a boil. I'm going to turn them down and let them simmer. Not a whole long time. Maybe 10-15 minutes. And then when they cool enough, I'm going to strain them, because all I want here is the juice, the flavor of the citrus infusion and the ginger and the raspberries, and then we're going to make a yummy sauce out of that. Be right back. Okay, I have here about 4 ounces of mushrooms. Now we're going to stuff these inside that wonderful pork tenderloin. And I'm not going to cook them very much, but I have a pat of butter, just a little bit of garlic, and I'm just going to cook these a little bit, because they're going to cook inside the tenderloin. So that's enough. I want them to keep some firmness, because we don't want them cooked to death. And those are ready. And we have let this simmer to loosen the juice up, and I'm going to strain it right here on the stove. I normally wouldn't do it right here on the stove, by the way, but this is the best light. And I just dropped my auxiliary light and broke it. So we're going to do it right here on the stove. And I'm going to squeeze out as much of the juice as I can. Then I'm going to rinse out this pot. And when that drains, I'm going to put the juice right back in the same pot. And right before we eat, I'll finish the sauce. Be back. Alright, well we're back. And this is that lovely piece of meat, and it's been marinating for several hours. And I'm going to dry it off. And then I'm going to try to stuff it. And we're going to see how well I do at that. So I have some nice little green onions and the mushrooms that you saw me saute with a little garlic. And I drained a little of the butter off of them. And this really doesn't take many. I'm going to spread these out. So that they're all through it. And let's use this skewer for right now. Okay. Now, I've got to take my gloves off for this. I have here, this is food grade baker's yarn, and it's will hold up to the heat. And I'm gonna cut off a piece longer than I think I need. We're gonna see if I can tie this up. I'm never very neat at this, but I'm gonna try to be neat just for you. Start about in the middle, and I really cut off way more than I needed. I'll cut a little bit more of this off. And tie it really tight, and then wrap it around. Tie it really tight again. And if you will notice, I pulled a flap in. So I want to tie it so that that flap doesn't come loose. And you may do a much better job of this than I do. This doesn't have to stay, and it's not going to be on it when you serve it. You're just trying to hold everything together. And I'm going to come back now. Tie this end. And I want to do this way. because I want that flap held. And I don't do this enough to stay in practice. But it'll be just fine. Okay, now if I've done it right, when I take the skewer out, the whole thing will stick together. Okay. Now, this is going to go over to the stove. I've got my oven preheating to 400. And we're going to... Oh, sorry. I forgot one thing. Those of you who remember my dry rub. Hold on. Someone in the group asked me, could the dry rub be used on other meat? Well, yes, it can. So I've rubbed a little of the dry rub in. I've got a spot that I haven't secured really well right here. I'll be careful with it. Okay, so it's stuffed, it's trussed up, it's dry rubbed. Let's move to the stove. Okay, I have here my cast iron skillet, one of my cast iron skillets, and I've got it on a medium to high heat, and I have sunflower oil in it. Let's talk just a little bit about oil. If you're going to be cooking something at a pretty high heat, extra virgin olive oil is not your oil. It's great for drizzling, it's great for slow saute. It's not great for frying because it has fairly low smoke point, and I've got this pretty hot. What I'm going to do here is brown this tenderloin. Going to sizzle. Because I want it brown and crispy all the way around, which is why you need to be sure you use food grade high heat yarn. So I'm going to brown it on all four sides and then cook it in the oven at 400 for about 20 minutes. Don't turn it too soon. You want to wait till you get a nice crust forming. Okay, you see that nice browning we've got? So that was done pretty quickly. We're going to stick this in our oven at about 400. I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes and check it, but it's probably going to take 20 minutes. And while that's cooking, we'll make our sauce. Now, here's our raspberry juice, along with the citrus infusion. I'm going to taste it. I think it's going to need just a tiny bit more brown sugar. You should taste yours and see if you think so. Not much. Just a tiny bit. And I've got it coming back up to heat. That was maybe a half a tablespoonful. I have here a tablespoonful of clear gel. Now, those of you who are canners know what that is. If you're not a canner and you don't know what it is, it's a modified cornstarch. And it can be used just like cornstarch. The difference in it is it thickens upon cooling instead of upon heating. So you use regular cornstarch if you like. I wouldn't use flour in this. I'm going to put a little juice in here with this cornstarch. And make a slurry. Because we want to thicken this so it'll stay on the meat. Stir it around and get the lumps out. And when I just tasted this, I'll tell you, you can taste all that lovely citrus and the raspberry, and it has a little acidy touch to your tongue. I will tell you that most recipes where you see a raspberry sauce are going to have some kind of wine in it. And I generally don't cook with wine. And when you've got that much acid from the infusion we made, I don't really think you need wine, but if you want wine, you can add it. Okay, we're going to stir this in. And if it gets too thick, and it might, you can thin it down with orange juice, or squeeze an orange into it, or you can add just a little bit of water. And we're going to cook it just long enough for the pasty flavor to cook off of the cornstarch. And it could be my imagination. I think clear gel has less of a pasty flavor. We're going to turn that off. Sorry, I forgot to turn my camera back. We're going to turn that off now until our meat is done, and then we will have dinner. Be back shortly. This is cooked the full 20 minutes. And we're going to check it. I'm going to cut down in it just a little bit. And it's still got a good bit of juice. We're going to cook it another 5 minutes. We don't want raw pork. It's been 25 minutes. And I'm going to say this is done. Yep. I'm going to wrap it up in a little piece of aluminum foil. Let it rest for just a couple minutes while we finish up the rest of dinner. And you know, that time is going to vary because when you're cooking a whole tenderloin, so the size is going to vary. But we ended up with 25 minutes on this, and it was a pretty good sized piece of tenderloin. So we'll be back. We'll plate this up. Well, let's see what we've got here. It took much longer to cook than I had planned, and I think that it's sufficiently done. Ooh, it's still very hot. We still have a little dressing to do here. Okay, we want to take our twine off. And you know, I wrapped it around it everywhere. Gonna need a better pair of scissors. I think I've got it all. No, there's one more piece here. Okay. The smell from this is just too great. Okay. And yes, it's very tender. We've got the onions and the mushrooms in the middle. Let me plate this up for you and we'll be right back. Oh my, you know, I had a little taste. And this raspberry sauce. Oh my. I had a little taste. This raspberry sauce is to die for. And the taste of the pork loin with the veggies inside and infused with the citrus infusion. I'm not sure I can describe it. But it's tender. And you know, I think Sorry, I gotta have some more. I think pork lends itself to fruit dressings and sauces in a way that other meat doesn't. So do yourself a favor. Cook this up. You're going to love it. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch.